Hi everyone, my name is Hosseini Abiodun. Some of my students asked me a lot of questions, and out of those questions, one stood out most to me. The one that stood out most to me is that how do we get to this dangerous point where the United States and Iran are building up for military confrontation? So I decided to write this up in form of an article, send it to a news media, and it was published in Guardian newspaper. So this is not plagiarism. It is my article. So the article is going to be read, and I'm going to analyze it paragraph by paragraph. So you can go ahead.
The article is titled United States Diplomatic and Strategic Error on Iran's Nuclear Program Deal. In order to critically assess how we have arrived at a precarious situation where both the United States and Iran are enhancing their military capabilities and preparing for potential conflict, it is necessary to consider various perspectives. It is important to recognize that analyzing this event from different viewpoints is entirely normal. The perspective one adopts may influence what one observes, and this will undoubtedly shape one's conclusions and interpretations regarding the US Iran conflict.
Yeah, thank you very much. The point I was trying to make there is that when there is issue between two countries, two nations, it is bound to look at things from different perspectives. Some individual they are going to look at it from the issue of religious perspective that United States is a Christian country, even though United States is not a Christian country the way most Arab nations believe or other part of the world. While the other people going to look at it from political, some going to look at it from economy, that the economic perspective. Some going to look at it from social religious, like I said earlier. So because of that, it's bound to look at it from different perspectives. But one thing is certain. What is certain is determination of the JCPOA. That is certain that no matter where you see it, you're going to see that that is what really drags us to this point we have, which is strategic error. So you can go ahead.
Nonetheless, there is one aspect that, regardless of one's viewpoint, everyone can agree on. The United States made a strategic error by terminating the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The JCPOA agreement was concluded in Vienna on July 14, 2015. This accord places restrictions on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the easing of sanctions and other related terms. The agreement involved not only the US and Iran, but also the P5 and various European countries. It's important to note that the relationship between the United States and Iran was improving, despite the ongoing competition between Iran and Israel in the Asia region. However, this relationship changed course due to a significant miscalculation during Trump's first term, as his administration withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal on May 8, 2018. This withdrawal was considered a strategic mistake because it incentivized Iran to increase its uranium enrichment and brought Iran closer to acquiring a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the point I was trying to make, or the point I made there, is that it's a strategic error to pull out from the, JCPOA. And the reason why it's a strategic error is because the JCPOA maintained that Iran should not go beyond the level they were then in the aspect of nuclear possessions. However, pulling out, and it is important to equally add to that that the JCPOA is a kind of a program that also ease the Iranian, economic sanctions and other related things, other related issue regarding to the sanctions. However, the JCPOA was established during the President Obama regime with the other European nations. They negotiated that and it was working. But in 2018, when the policy of President Trump, either failure in strategy or strategic error, decided to terminate the JCPOA. That gave a little room for the Iranian to continue with the productions of their with the improvement of their nuclear weapons. So you can go ahead.
Recently, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran's stockpile of 60% enriched uranium could be sufficient for the creation of six nuclear bombs if further enriched to 90%.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what happened is that the international organization, they stated that Iranian already acquire 60%, and when they go to 90, that's going to be able to produce six nuclear weapons. So by so doing, and based on the tension between Israel and Iran for nuclear power tussle and the issue of the issue of regional power. So if Iran should possess that nuclear power, so it's going to change the chemistry in the Middle East because one, Saudi Arabia may want to have one, Bahrain may want to have one, Qatar may want to have one. So by so doing, the United States does not want that. Even some people argue that Iran is a sovereign state. They have the right to possess nuclear power. But it is very fact, it's a fact that is going to change the balance of power in the Middle East. So you can go ahead.
Iran has deliberately delayed its progress toward acquiring a nuclear weapon for several key reasons. First, due to economic sanctions, Iran sees greater advantages in achieving economic growth rather than obtaining a nuclear weapon, which would bring further sanctions. Second, to prevent internal unrest, the Iranian leadership is aware that the US and its Western allies could pursue strategies aimed at instigating internal crises to achieve regime change. Third, Iran is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty since 1970, which is an essential international agreement. The NPT is aimed at stopping the proliferation of nuclear weapons, encouraging the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and advancing nuclear disarmament. Iran feels responsible to uphold its end of the agreement. Fourth, Iran recognizes that a strong US response could lead to military conflict that might either destroy its nuclear program or lead Iran to become a nuclear state. Finally, Iran has consistently affirmed that their disinterest in developing a nuclear weapon is motivated by religious factors.
Yeah, thank you very much. I highlighted key factors, which are five major factors, why Iran intentionally slowed down between the eradication or termination of the JCPOA in 2018 up to 2025, even with the issue of the attacks or conflict between them and Israel, they still try to restrain themselves from possessing nuclear power, nuclear weapons. And these are the five major factors that I highlighted in my articles. First, economic sanctions. Iran prefer to be prosper economically than to possess nuclear weapons. So because of that, they are very cautious. The second one is to prevent social unrest, social or political unrest, because the Western nations they may have a kind of strategy to make sure they create a kind of social unrest, instability that may lead to regime change. The other one that I also highlighted, which is one of the reasons why they were very slow, they slow down or they are very sluggish about trying to possess a nuclear power is the fact that they are signatory to the NPT, and they are signatory to NPT. They became a signatory to the organization in 1970. So if they are really interested in moving forward, they would have put themselves out like North Korea, but they decided not to do so. And the other point I highlighted is that they now I don't want to say afraid, but they do not know how the United States is going to perceive the issue of Iran possessing nuclear power. So they are thinking about the strong reaction. But those strong reaction can be in two parts. First, it can destroy the the Iranian nuclear capacity, the factory. And the other way, it can also lead Iranian to be able to possess one. Because if United States cannot destroy those capacity at once, they may decide to go and produce one or two, and that's the end of the story. And the other factors, the Iranian leader has consistently said loud and clear that they do not want to possess nuclear power because it's against their religion. So those factors make Iran to be able to slow down, because if they do not slow down, those factors can be a big problem for the country as a whole. So the last part, go ahead.
Conversely, the combination of threats from the US and Israel, alongside inconsistencies in contemporary US foreign policy, the actions of Western intelligence agencies creating instability and effecting regime changes, and the recent lesson from the fall of the Assad regime in Syria may drive Iran to seek nuclear weapons. Nonetheless, the global economy has yet to bounce back from the adverse effects of COVID 19. Furthermore, the repercussions of the ongoing international trade conflicts sparked by the United States to safeguard its domestic economy have not yet revealed themselves. Engaging in a war with Iran would likely result in significant inflation worldwide.
Yeah, thank you very much. I try to wrap up my opinion by stating that, based on the fact that the Iranian they learn a lot from the issue of Assad regime, the fall of Assad regime in Syria, and also, the United States is trying to protect its own domestic economy. So by so doing, the trade war that is ongoing, we do not even have the knowledge of where the trade war is going. Plus, before then, there is a COVID-19 that we have not even recovered globally. So adding Iran war to this is going to cause global inflation. It's going to affect the global economy, not just between the United States and Iran, because the Iran participation or contribution to oil productions, energy, is enormous. So by so doing, I think it's important to employ diplomacy to dialogue. Even though the dialogue is going to be painful, is going to be on the other way around, I think it is important to reintroduce the JCPOA. So when the JCPOA is reintroduced, although there may be a little addiction or a little additions, because Iranian nuclear power, the possession, the what they possess during 2018 already advanced. So there's going to be a little additional to contain that. So, and I think, they need to drop the ego, both United States and Iran, for the global peace and security. So thank you very much. I'm going to pull the article down below this page, so you can look at it, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.